Welcome to AM Muscle Maintenance with InShape Fitness. I'm Coach Kim. Thank you so much for joining me today. We are talking about chamber fitness. And by that, I mean morning time movement routines and how great they are. They're in fact as good of a silver bullet as you're going to get when it comes to health outcomes. Now, I'm not talking about ripped abs and shredded shoulder muscles and fitting into a teeny tiny black dress or looking really great on the beach. I am talking about fitness in terms of the function that your body maintains, in terms of the pain and suffering that you can mitigate, in terms of the effects that consistency and persistence are going to have over time, how your body is stimulated when you work a little bit every day. And by chamber, I mean your bedroom, sort of thinking back to the history. I've been studying so much of our of human history in terms of recreation and fitness that I'm about to stop calling myself an actual trainer and start to call myself a fitness historian or kind of a fitness anthropologist, because I'm fascinated by the speed with which we have become sort of beholden or shackled to consumer-based fitness regimens, and how when you don't pay for a membership or when you don't hire out for someone to, guide you through every single workout experience, most people simply just don't do anything. And because sedentary life is, the way that we live now, we spend so much of our time sitting on our butts from place to place. So the movement that we experience is from the lying down position in the bed to the seated position, maybe in a car or on a subway, to a seated position in a chair, and then back into the bed at the end of the day, and you start all over every day. It's not sustainable, nor is it sustainable for you to go to an exercise facility 5, 6, 7 days a week. But you do have the power and the body parts and gravity to do a little bit of work every single morning. So we're going to talk a little bit about the exercises that make sense for you to do in the morning, why they make sense for you to do them in the morning, and we're going to try a few of them. Also, deep breathing techniques and a sense of not necessarily yoga like capital Y yoga, but a little bit of flexibility work that just helps you achieve the transition from the dormancy of your sleep time. And sleep time is really important. It's a really vital part of your recovery from one day to the next, because it's when your brain is processing everything. It's when your body parts repair each other, repair themselves, body tissues repair themselves. It's when a lot of things actually take place inside of your body that are so pre-written into the most primitive parts of your biological system. And what happens in the morning when the alarm clock goes off and you're racing to get to the office, or you're racing to get your kids out the door, or you're racing to get to school on time, is that you're so in your head, you're so in your brain about your achievements, the things that you need to do, your busyness, that you completely separate yourself from the physicality of being a person, a healthy person. And then by the time you start to think about it at the end of the day, maybe when you want to go to a boot camp class, or even if you do something with a trainer, or maybe go to a morning regimen, you're already sort of working backwards to try and get caught up, because the natural sort of stimulation that should take place as you begin to move in the morning has been hindered by the effects of the lifestyles that we generally live in today's times. So let's start with a postural systems check, because that's how I always begin routines that I do via podcast. And so I'm going to be talking to you about the benefits of the posture that you should display, regardless of whether you're sitting or standing. But if you can stand up right now, you should. If you are sitting, make sure that your legs are not crossed, but you want to make sure that you realize you have something called a plumb line. And the plumb line runs from the top of your head down the side of your body to your ankles, and it should be a straight line. So, the top of your head. Remember, your head weighs 11 pounds. It is a heavy piece of equipment. And in fact, if you were holding a head or a medicine ball, let's just call it that, but that weighs about 11 pounds, you'd really struggle with after just a couple of minutes, you would really be struggling to carry it around. You'd be thinking, oh, I got to squeeze my tummy muscles and keep my back straight. I've got to, my arms are getting tired. How do I relieve some of the pressure on my biceps or maybe my forearms? But your head is sitting on kind of a bony, skinny neck, and then atop your shoulders, and that ballast of your body is a really critical part of your anatomy and your posture, because it really dictates where your center of gravity is. And so your head should be situated such that your ears and your shoulders line up vertically. Now, part of that alignment includes the concave position of your chest and the rounded shoulders, which we have now because of all of our device typing, our keyboard typing, of course, driving a car with the steering wheel, your arms are forward, so you're pulling on the upper back, causes a lot of strain in your upper back, your trap muscle, and then your head is sort of craning forward, which causes additional strain and tilts or pulls on the back part of the top part of your spine, the back of the neck, as well as collapses the front of your neck. Something we don't actually talk a lot about, but it's something to also think about, which is the ability for your windpipe and your esophagus to operate, to function efficiently by keeping your head back and keeping your throat open. Now we're going to take a deep breath. You should take 3 seconds to inhale through your nose. And then you bellow. And I say the word bellow because I like to say the word bellow. It's an onomatopoeia, and blowing the air out of your mouth like a bellow is a contraction of the tissues in your abdomen that really help boost the efficiency of your lung capacity. And that, hey, is metabolic. When you stimulate and activate your lung capacity, the little parts of your lung that are deep down near the diaphragm that don't really get a lot of action because they're kind of like the capillary blood vessels in the tips of your fingers or the tips of your toes that also are pretty dormant for a lot of your day. Maybe not your fingers if you're doing a lot of device typing, but your toes. And they benefit from the deep breathing that you do when you're in workouts like this, which is not really a workout, but it is, again, partial sort of movement, internal movements that you can do as your morning begins and you are just mustering. You wake up, deep breathing, inhaling through your nose, taking 3 seconds, exhaling through your mouth, taking 3 seconds. Do 3 of them. Think in threes. It's all good. And make sure that your shoulders are back. Make so your chest is high. Make sure your ears are in line with your shoulders. Now, if you're still standing, hopefully you are, you're going to also make sure that you tuck in your tailbone. Do a little back and forth if you want to feel the difference. By sitting most of the day, the lower back is slightly contracted. Your pelvis is tilted forward. And over time, you end up with a condition, you're evolving essentially into this sort of blobby person. This is what's happening overall in our generations, where we're literally changing the physiology, the anatomy and physiology of our species, because we're sitting, and that's tilting the pelvis forward, sticking the butt out a little bit, that which pulls on or contracts rather, and weakens the lower back. It pulls on your hip flexors, and it also weakens your butt. So you want to tuck in your tailbone and then try to think about someone, if you were a marionette and someone had a string attached to the top of your head and then pulled slightly, you're just going to lift up through your rib cage and elongate your spine a little bit. All right, then your legs are there. Obviously, you're going to make sure that you're distributing your body weight between your right leg and your left leg equally, and between your heels and the balls of your feet. So imagine that you have 4 corners of your feet and you are pressing into the floor with all 4 corners on each foot. Now we're 10 minutes into talking about morning time stimulation, and chances are if you're listening to this and it is morning time, you're trying to do some of this work, you're thinking to yourself, maybe this is not a sufficient amount of exercise. But bear with me here, because most of the time I've learned from people that listen to these podcasts, you're listening and then you get started in the movements a little bit later, or maybe just listen in when you're at your office and make some notes and use the information at a later time. So hopefully, either way, but hopefully you're thinking about the way that you can benefit from the posture, whether you're seated again or standing, and those deep breathing techniques. Now, there's another thing that you can do in terms of your breathing. Just as an aside, you can do this anytime. Change your breathing slightly to slow it down and make it a little deeper. All you want to do, so I use 3 seconds as just a simple number. 3 seconds inhaling, 3 seconds exhaling. You can modify that combination and maybe do an inhale for 3 seconds, exhale for 2. In fact, in some ways, that is the relationship between inhaling and exhaling that I recommend to people who are running long distances. You inhale for 3 steps and you exhale for 2. Inhale for 3 steps, exhale for 2. If you're walking, it could be inhale for 2, exhale for 1. And the reason we do that alternating odd and even pattern, or one more for the inhale than the exhale, is because when you plant your foot on your exhale, you exert more of your body weight. There's more pressure landing. And if you're running in particular, you want to make sure that your left leg is doing as much work as your right leg. I've done tons of podcasts about that very subject, so go and look at some of the previous ones up, or get in touch with me at bodybyInShape.com in the contact section. I'd be happy to go through it with you. But let's get back to the breathing variations. The other thing that you can do is increase the number of seconds from 3 to 4. It takes a little more effort to inhale over 4 seconds, and then you exhale for 4 seconds. And you could even inhale to 5 seconds if you really slow that inhale down and draw in as much air to your belly as your body is able to. Then bellow out slowly but forcefully the carbon dioxide through your mouth again for 5 seconds as well. So those are some variations to breathing that will help exercise your lung capacity, which in turn stimulates your respiration, which in turn is part of your metabolism. Now we're also doing the postural systems check. What I want you to do at this point as well is a balance exercise, because a balance assessment and then an exercise, because the ability for you to stand on one leg or to stand on or position your feet in some compromised way, and we're going to do that with the exercise, is to force your body to seek out stability with the surface of the earth. And that means you're activating the small ancillary muscles that support your limbs. So like the muscles that reside in your feet, the muscles on the side of your legs, the lower leg muscles, your inner glute muscles, etc. And so when you lift your left leg up off of the floor, are you able to balance on your right leg? Now, might not be very hard for you. And hopefully it's not very hard for you. You should technically, unless you have injuries, and you should always talk to your doctor if you're concerned about whether you're fit enough to move freestyle, like to move with a trainer, to move in an exercise class unsupervised by a licensed physical therapist and or doctor. You should just make sure that you're comfortable with that, because you don't want to hurt yourself. Any question, just talk to your doctor. But if you can lift up your left leg and balance on your right leg for 30 seconds, hopefully a minute without too much staggering, you've got good balance, and that's excellent. If you try it on your other leg, do you have the same result? Because it's that difference that can really cause grief later down the road in a couple of ways. Number one, it can cause problems for the weaker of your legs, the acute injuries that you might sustain if you, for example, are right-handed, so you have a weaker left leg and you trip, on something going down the stairs on the left leg and you twist your ankle, or, do something to your heel or your foot in some way. The acute injuries could be more severe on the left side if it's weaker. The other issue is the chronic overuse type of nagging, sort of slowly developing things that could happen to your right leg. Because if you are an ardent exerciser, if you're committed to a healthy lifestyle and you're out there, with the many people that I talk to every week in New York City, we're all runners. We all maybe not love running hundreds of miles, doing ultra marathons, or even singular marathon distances, even half marathon distances. What you do is you go and you exercise in a run, and it could be 30 minutes long. It could be shorter even than that, but or maybe an hour or 2 hours long. And what happens over time is that the muscles that get tired first are the smaller muscles on the weaker side. And for right-legged dominant people, which is almost everyone, you can develop right chronic overuse injuries. And that also is an issue with imbalances. So the balance exercise now that we're going to do, and then we're just going to do one total body exercise, and then I'm going to try to say goodbye before the 25-minute mark, because I tend to go longer every single podcast. I could just sit here and talk about exercise, and I haven't even done any of my stories today. I've been talking about Darwin and Queen Elizabeth I, and lots of different Bruce Lee and different characters that I've been researching for my book, which I'm calling Darwin on the Treadmill. I haven't found a publisher yet, so and I'm still having a couple of clients peer review it, but I'm really excited about the finds in history of recreation and exercise, and how just shocked I am at the speed with which we have allowed big companies to sell us on this notion that, you got to purchase an exercise experience. Otherwise, you're going to get, you're going to not benefit from a healthy lifestyle. It just shouldn't be that way. So I'm committed to helping people find ways to fit exercise into their health, their lives, without exercise clothes, without memberships, without the experience that you want to check off on a box with your to-do list. And to that end, I end up talking a lot longer than I should, just as I just have for the last 2 minutes. Anyway, so let's go to the exercise, which I want to do, called the Lighthouse. And the Lighthouse is a balance exercise, but also one that helps bring more awareness to your posture, to the ability for you to hold your body up erect without the deviations from the posture that I've already talked about. But what you do with the Lighthouse is extend your arms out to the sides, palms face down. So just do that. You open up your chest, your gaze is forward, your arms are parallel to the floor, and then you stagger your feet. So they should start right next to each other, and then you stagger them. And if you're decently balanced, you will be in full heel-to-toe position. Or modify that. It doesn't have to be completely heel-to-toe. You might just, with your feet really close together, that might be sufficient to cause you to lose some sense of balance. Because obviously that's what we're going to do. In order to build balance, we're going to take you off balance. We're discombobulating your vestibular system, which is the inner ear equilibrium in compilation with your proprioception. And so what you're going to do is turn your head slowly all the way to the right and then all the way to the left. This is the lighthouse part. So the only thing that's moving is your head. The rest is just your awareness. Squeeze your tushy muscles, zip up your tummy muscles, retuck in that tailbone to make sure that your plumb line is straight. And then make sure that you are moving slowly and that, again, if you need to grab something, be close to a wall, whatever, make sure that you don't knock yourself completely off balance and fall down. But you want to make sure that you're feeling, and you'll feel this very quickly, either the little bit of a twitch in some of the small muscles in your feet, or perhaps a level of heat rising in your feet and lower legs through that added level of isometric contraction. And then you can switch your feet and do the other side. And keep breathing. Again, smell the air, inhaling through your nose, and exhale like a bellow, all that carbon dioxide out of your body. All right, now let's get your heart rate up just a little bit. And the way that we're going to do this is a couple variations with squats. So really simple, and you can use a chair for the initial ones, but what I want you to do, if you can, is to sit into an imaginary chair with your feet facing forward. Don't turn out your toes. Make sure that your feet are heel to toe. And make sure that as you sit down and back, your knees don't go past the tips of your toes. It's really important for a standard squat, which is almost like a wall sit. And if you do nothing else while I'm continuing to talk for the next 2 minutes, you can go in and out of wall sits and just focus on keeping your shoulders back, keeping your tummy muscles pulled in, keeping your feet heel to toe lined up. Once your toes turn out, then you take the sort of balanced work that your entire leg is doing with your glute, and you transfer some of that energy to just the quad. Because when your toes turn out, your lower back and your quadriceps take over, essentially. So if you're going into the imaginary chair and you don't have the wall, when you stand up real slowly, and you press your heels into the floor and squeeze your butt cheeks. I tell people to find their butt with your brain, and you want to squeeze your butt as you lift up. So this is an interaction with gravity. I've talked and do many podcasts about squats because they are a really easy way to boost your heart rate. Gravity is the physical force that is here on earth for you to do your exercise. Now, weights are fun and they can make an exciting workout even more interesting, but you do not need them. No one does. So sit down, sit back. If you need more of a, oomph, you can go deeper into the squat, all the way down to a frog. You can make it a burpee or a walkout push-up, but you don't need to make it so you don't need to concern yourself that your body weight isn't sufficient to boost your heart rate, because no matter how big or small you are, no matter how fit you are, if you sit down and stand up and you do it over and over again, your heart rate is going to lift. Your heart rate is going to be boosted because gravity is a physical force that is pressurizing your cellular response. So you are working against gravity, And that means your oxygen requirements are increasing. Your heart rate has to follow suit. All right, we're at the 25-minute mark. I have hopefully informed you of a couple of interesting ways for you to muster in the morning, for you to get up. I'm a big fan of doing burpees beside the bed before I ever leave my bedroom. Also, the deep breathing techniques and the postural systems check with the Lighthouse as a balance exercise. Have a great rest of the day, and let me know if you need anything else at bodybyInShape.com.